The Hornets bash a good team by 20. Kon makes more history in his rookie season. Business as usual, and business is good. Let's get into it. Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Hornets, your daily podcast on the Charlotte Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network in the nation. I'm Doug Branson. You can follow my work on every HornetsBoxScore.com, where I got to do some game notes on a 127-107 win over the Phoenix Suns at home. The Hornets finally have a winning record at home. Still a better record on the road, but now a winning record in front of the crowd at Spectrum Center. Good crowd in Charlotte to see a win that puts them in sole possession of 8th place in the Eastern Conference. A win that has those slim chances of sneaking up and getting a 6th seed and an outright spot in the NBA playoffs. Keeps those hopes alive. But let's not look too far ahead. Let's talk about this win. Walker Mail, my co-host, was part of the broadcast team tonight. You'll hear more from him on this win and the game against the Pacers, an important weekend of basketball ahead for the Charlotte Hornets. You'll hear more from him tomorrow. But let's get into this game. We'll talk more about Kon breaking some records, and we'll get into your sicko celebrations at the end of this show. Join subtext.com/Locked On Hornets if you want to join the Sicko Brigade and get your celebrations in for the remaining 6 games in the Hornets schedule. So this one started a little worrisome for the Charlotte Hornets. They allow the Phoenix Suns 41 points in the first quarter. The defense did not look very scrappy. The aggressors were the Phoenix Suns. Devin Booker, Dylan Brooks, Colin Gillespie was getting open and free for too many looks. They were wanting to push the pace, getting into transition, and getting open far too often. And the Hornets, to me, this was a grown-up win because they got themselves together in that second quarter and started to remind themselves of the things that have gotten them to this point, the things that have led to them being where they are despite starting 4-14, despite being 6-16 and having to drag themselves out of that massive hole that injury set for them. They did it not only because they're shooting the leather off the ball, not only because of the ball movement, not only because LaMelo Ball has been healthy and Kon Knueppel has been one of the, if not the best shooter in the league this season, but it's because they've learned how to be physical on defense, and they've learned how to attack teams up top and keep them away from the rim. They weren't doing that in the first quarter, but they locked it in and only allowed 19 points to the Phoenix Suns in the second quarter. And the guy who really sparked the rally on both ends was Coby White, who finished this game with 19 points, 6 of 13 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3, and those 3 3-pointers all coming in a second quarter rally that essentially was a 30-14 run that helped the Hornets regain the lead in the second quarter. After the game, Charles Lee said, "I know what Coby White can do offensively, but I actually thought he brought a defensive edge and it helped us get back out a little quicker," meaning getting back out into offense a little quicker, which is just particularly on that bench unit, because I think the starters have proven they can play a half-court game. It used to be for the Hornets to generate really anything good offensively over the course of 48 minutes, they had to get out and run, and they had to do it constantly. But I think with Kon shooting so well, with Brandon shooting so well, with LaMelo shooting so well, they've been able to find these little wrinkles in ball movement and man movement, and then, obviously Moose cleaning up any misses. They've been able to find enough to be not only good, but super effective in the half court. But when you get down to the bench unit, I still think they have to run a little bit, and Coby White helped them to do that. And I'm just going to go down the notebook here over the first two segments, and then we'll get to your celebrations. But one of the wrinkles, the next thing in my notebook is labeled Lob Buzz City, because that's what they were, the lob attack, getting behind the Phoenix Suns defense. In particular, it was LaMelo Ball who finished this game with a double-double, points and assists. He finished the game with 11 of those. And I think 3 or 4 of those were on lob dunks to Miles Bridges. They really hacked the Phoenix Suns defense. And the good teams this season, in order to try to slow the Charlotte Hornets down, have made a calculation. And that calculation is, we're going to go down your best offensive players. LaMelo number 1, Brandon number 2. In terms of scoring, probably Brandon number 1, but just in terms of overall impact, LaMelo 1, Brandon 2, Kon 3. We're going to take our 3 best wing players, guys with size. We're going to throw them on those 3. And in this game, I thought Phoenix, they were particularly handsy and aggressive with LaMelo Ball and with Kon Knueppel. Brandon Miller was allowed to play a little bit more free, particularly if he got to the middle of the floor. But out on the perimeter, teams are being aggressive. They're pushing. They're hard hedging. They're going over the top of every screen. They're not letting the Hornets breathe at all. And that makes sense, because the Hornets are the best shooting team in the NBA. You cannot allow those 3 guys to all get into a rhythm. And so the calculation is, we're going to allow Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges is the 4th best player on the team. We're going to allow that guy to do whatever he wants. And the way we're going to do that is, we're going to put our worst defender of the wing defenders that we have, the smallest guy, we'll put him on Miles Bridges. And Miles has been able, through both posting up and in this game movement on the backside, has been able to get free. And it doesn't hurt that his partner in crime is LaMelo Ball, one of the best passers in the league, who was putting the ball on an absolute dot for Miles Bridges as he was getting open. And it doesn't matter if LaMelo's right above the break or if he's at the half-court line. LaMelo has his passing absolutely locked in. And let me just double-check this. I'm pretty certain, but I just want to double-check before I say this. Yes. LaMelo Ball, 11 assists in this game, 0 turnovers. That's the kind of goose egg you want to see from LaMelo Ball. And as a team, they only had 10 turnovers. Their problems in the first quarter were not the problems that they've really had all season long. The problems all season long have been turnovers, I won't say most of them, but a lot of them being dead ball turnovers where you're, bad screens, just not disciplined with your, with setting your feet and different things like that. But they also have had a live ball turnover problem. And it hurts their defense and it hurts their offense in terms of taking that offense out of a rhythm. Wasn't a problem in this game. And Coby White led the team with 3, Miles 2, Kon 1, Musa 1, Brandon 1. But 10 turnovers. You're going to take that all day long. And it really helped them in this game. Points off of turnovers for the game, which has killed the Hornets all season. The Hornets actually won this battle on points off of turnover 19-8. They took 12 Phoenix turnovers and turned them into 19 points. I was looking at some stats earlier today on Synergy. The Hornets, strangely, have not been a great team in transition. They don't run a ton, but even when they do, their 2-point field goal percentage down. And you saw one of those transition opportunities, I believe it was at the end of the first half, break down when they got a steal. Musa couldn't handle it. Got it to Brandon late. The defense was able to recover. Brandon really couldn't do much with it. They don't get to build on the lead there. But they haven't been able to take some of these turnovers, even when they've had big turnover games, turning over the opponent. They haven't been able to turn enough of those into points. I thought they did in this game against Phoenix. And it helps them to continue to build that lead in the second quarter where they scored 33 points, and in the third quarter where the starters, they just came out, they smelled blood in the water. They said, all right, Phoenix, you've given us a little bit of the lead. Now we're going to take a lot of a lead. And they took a 15-point lead into the fourth quarter where they finished off Phoenix. Much more to cover in this game, storylines in this game, history made. Stick with me here on Locked On Hornets. Today's episode of Locked On Hornets brought to you by our good friends at Quo. It's springtime. I know it because I'm sneezing. But spring is also a natural reset point. And if there's one thing that can quietly cost businesses money, it is messy communication, missed calls, scattered texts, no clear thread of who said what. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo. It's spelled Q-U-O, and it's the smarter way to run your business communications. Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2. They've got over 3,000 reviews. They are trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. It lets your entire team share one business number so you never miss a call, a text, or an opportunity. And here's the part that I love. Everything lives on one clean thread. Your calls, your text, your voicemail, all in one thread so you can organize it all, you can see it all. The whole team sees the conversation. Nothing falls through the cracks. And the AI summaries have save you serious time by logging calls and highlighting those next steps automatically. It just makes your business feel more organized and more responsive. Make this season the no opportunity and no customers slip away season. Try Quo free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonnba. That's quo.com, quo.com/lockedonnba. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. This episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time! It's not the same when I say it alone, but I'll say it anyway. Game Time! There's nothing like being in the NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. I mean, Spectrum Center was rocking tonight for sure. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with the fans. The fam and I right now talking about attending a Hornets play-in game and a playoff game, knock on wood. And so we'll be using Game Time for sure because when I pull up the Game Time app, I can pick an upcoming NBA game. I've got tickets locked in within minutes. I love seeing the all-in price up front, no surprise fees at checkout, being able to see the view from the seat before buying. It makes the decision super easy. Zone deals, they stand out. Choose the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save. Great last-minute options, too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Back here on Locked On Hornets, celebrating a 20-point win. The Hornets getting back to what they've done best since the All-Star break, which is smacking good teams in the mouth. And this Phoenix team, they were pesky. They were handsy. They were a little floppy at times. Devin Booker, Dylan Brooks. I mean, this is not unusual. Colin Gillespie, Grayson Allen. I mean, they were doing the things that you expect those players to do. They were trying to play the mental game. They were trying to psych the Charlotte Hornets out. And unfortunately for the Hornets, they weren't getting much help from the referees who I thought really bought. Like sometimes Phoenix tries to do that and they don't get away with it. And sometimes they do and the referees buy into it. And I just look, if you've been listening to this show, if you're a sicko, if you're a diehard, if you're an everydayer, if you listen to the show a lot, I don't complain about the referees every show. That's not what this show is. I like to talk about basketball because if you talk to players and you talk to coaches, in the heat of the moment, in the heat of battle, they're going to complain to the referees a lot. They never, you're in the battle. But when you step back and you look at the film, oftentimes you realize, hey, a lot happens in a game and one call doesn't go your way. That's not the deciding factor in a game typically. It's typically, we didn't rebound well enough, or we weren't physical enough. Those are the kind of things I like to look at and like to examine. But man, the referees were terrible tonight. They were awful. This crew was... They missed and it was for both sides. They missed a call that was challenged by Phoenix. Moose clearly touched the bat. Even Moose thought, "Oh yeah, you got me for basket interference," but they called it goaltend and gave 2 points to the Hornets. Immediate challenge, but then I thought Jordan Ott got the technical. I had to check the box score maybe during the next break and double check this because so technical fouls, it doesn't list it in the box score. I thought Jalen Green got 2 technicals in this game. I thought he was going to be thrown out because they gave the second technical on the challenge. I thought it was Ott, the coach, who challenged. It was a little too vehement with the challenge that got the technical. So I don't know, man. I mean, there were just so many missed calls, they missed Grayson Allen clear as day. I mean, just how did nobody see it? Clear as day arm bar push off on one of his baskets, just across the board. And I can really tell when the officials are bad when Lee loses his mind, when Charles Lee loses his mind, because it's been one of our criticisms this season that he has not been vehement enough when the calls aren't going the Hornets' way, particularly when LaMelo Ball is not getting calls, and he didn't get him in this one either. I mean, there was a particular play, I believe it was Gillespie and not Allen, though tough to tell the difference between the two, both in how they play and how they look. But I think it was Gillespie so LaMelo comes off the screen. Gillespie's got a hold of his arm. That's a foul. Then LaMelo does his decel, dead leg, stop, try to put you in jail. And Gillespie walks himself into the jail cell, makes contact with LaMelo as he's going up for the shot. No call. And LaMelo, look, to his credit, he was upset and had every right to be. He didn't take it over the top. He did, I think, get back into transition once a little too slowly but then he got back into it. And that to me is really the storyline of this game, is that the Hornets are able to learn lessons mid-game. That wasn't the case early in the season, and it certainly wasn't the case last season. This team would get into their own head and stay in their own head. And that, if you're talking about the play-in game that's coming up for the Hornets, or potentially a playoff game, if they can make up this 1.5 game deficit that they are now sit in with Philadelphia and Toronto, if they're in a tight play-in game and a team like Phoenix, if the Miami Heat, or if that's who they have to play, or the Philadelphia 76ers, if they try to come out and be aggressive defensively early and the calls aren't going their way, or the calls shift, because we know how different the whistle can be in the regular season to where it happens in the playoffs, if they can't make the adjustment mid-game, both in how they play, but also how they're acting, how they're behaving, where their focus is, where their mind is, if they can't do that, then they might as well just pack it up and go home now. But I think they can. And I think this game proves it, because the Hornets were able to refocus. They were able to say, we're not going to let the actions of the Phoenix Suns or the referees get in the way of what we want to do in this game, in the way of how we want to impose ourselves. And so LaMelo got back to lobbing it to Miles Bridges, Ryan Kalkbrenner and Sion James setting a tone defensively. Ryan Kalkbrenner in particular, one of the few games I thought Kalkbrenner actually outplayed Musa a little bit. And was able to get some more closing minutes, I thought, than Musa. But they really set the tone inside. 4 blocks for Kalkbrenner in this game. He was physical, and I thought particularly interesting on a night in which he was going up against a former Charlotte Hornet, Mark Williams. Nice of the team to give him a tribute video. At least they could do, I guess, if you're gonna trade a guy twice. The least you could do is give him a little salute when he comes back. But the biggest salute was Kalkbrenner dominating him inside. And look, my criticisms of Mark Williams were I had a lot of them, and I thought. But I was hoping that, he could go and find himself a different situation. He hasn't been able to be as available as I'm sure Phoenix Suns fans have wanted him to be. And I thought in this game, he some of the same stuff cropped up where he's a little too concerned with the stats, not doing the little things, getting out rebounded, getting out physical. But then he slams it on then he blocks a shot and slams it on, or he blocks Sion's shot and then slams it on the other end. And he's celebrating. And it's like, dude, you're down 15. Your team's down 15. At a certain point, and he didn't deserve all the blame for that, but certainly Kalkbrenner outplaying him for large sections of the game. Yeah, like that's part of it was on him. So anyway, this is no longer a Mark Williams show, so I'm not going to super harp on it, but I just thought it was really interesting that Kalkbrenner has that great night, because Kalkbrenner is the kind of guy that's not as concerned with his box score numbers. He doesn't care that he's not putting up massive numbers. He's just being super efficient and super focused on the right things. Now, Diabate, only 4 points in this game, does get into the double digits and rebounds himself. You know, it wasn't a bad, I don't know if it's a bad game for Musa. He just wasn't making the same kind of impacts as we're used to seeing him make, particularly on the offensive boards. But Lee did single out both Kalkbrenner and Sion James. He thought Sion helped hold Booker to one free throw attempt, mentioned understanding the tendencies again, because Booker was lighting up the starters. Like Booker was lighting up Brandon. Booker got Kon a couple of times. Like wing defense, just not a strength for that starting unit. You know, I think it's going to be paramount that Sion and Kalkbrenner and Josh Green and some of these tools that they have on the bench are able to come in and slow these guys down, because I don't know if they can really slow players down at the beginning of games. I think the tone defensively for certain guys, certain scorers, is going to have to be set by those guys, and Sion definitely did it. And Sion, you know, another guy, not concerned about stats, but can still make a massive impact on a game. And you saw it from both Sion and Kalkbrenner. Before we get to sicko celebrations, I have to celebrate Kon Knueppel. Sorry if I buried a lead. I just wanted to talk about this amazing 20-point win, but even more amazing is Kon Knueppel, rookie sensation, becoming the franchise's single-season leader in three-pointers made. Got a corner three in the fourth quarter. Dead-eye shooting, a massive reason for this team's turnaround. He talked after the game about how he worked with coaches to study his footwork and his base to try to bust out of the recent slump that he's been in. Well, whatever they did, it worked in this game. 20 points, 7 of 14 from the field, 4 of 19 from three. He was all over the floor offensively. His passing has gotten so much better since the beginning of the season, making less obvious turnovers and making more high-impact passes. He was excellent. Body movement looked good. I thought he got looser as the game went on. I do think that back is still an issue. Maybe the ankle's still an issue. He's got the big braces on now. Hopefully at some point he gets an opportunity. I don't think he's going to want to. Maybe he doesn't. But it might be nice if things are decided in the last game or two to give Kon a night off to like get that body fully healthy, because they are going to need everything that Kon offers in the postseason. Okay, we're going to check the Sicko Brigade. Join subtext.com/Locked On Hornets. Hear from you, the sickos, on how you're celebrating this massive win. We'll also check the standings. I mentioned where they were, 6, in terms of how far they are from 6, but we'll take a little look at that as well coming up. Locked On Hornets. Today's episode of Locked On Hornets brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. The tournament is here, one of the best times of the year. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets. It is nonstop action from tip to final cutdown. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. Here's the best part. You get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want. Game picks, futures, or even same-game parlays for bigger potential payouts. And I tell you what, some of the teams feature a few players like Yaxel Lindenborg for Michigan, who I've seen mocked to the Charlotte Hornets, depending on how this, they've got some extra picks coming up in this draft. You know, it could land a lottery pick for the Charlotte Hornets, and that could be Yaxel Lindenborg, so just a player to watch there. And maybe put some scratch on using FanDuel.com. It's perfect for the tournament because every day there's something new, different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds. So visit FanDuel.com, sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On Hornets your first listen every day. Want to tell you about the Everydayer Club. Get your first month of the Everydayer Club for free when you use code MARCH. You'll unlock ad-free episodes. People love that. And entry into our private listener group chat where you can hang out with other hardcore Hornets fans, sickos, everydayers in the chat. Click the link in the show notes. Go to lockedonhornets.supercast.com. That's lockedonhornets.supercast.com. Claim your free month. Got sicko celebrations to get to, but before I do that, I saw this news hit in the middle of the game. Main Street Sports Group, owner of the FanDuel branded regional sports network, aka FanDuel Sports Network, that broadcast Hornets games, it is shuttering this month. 13 NBA teams become local TV free agents. So the RSN, the regional sports network that has been the home of the Hornets, is no longer going to be the home of the Hornets. And this is something we saw coming, but was sort of back and forth. There was some noise before the season about Amazon possibly stepping in. But this regional sports network, now we've confirmed the Hornets as an organization going to be as Awful Announcing puts it here, a free agent, a local TV free agent. Now we have seen the Hornets experiment more and more with simulcasting the games with local TV stations. So will the Hornets establish a firm home on a local over-the-air network? They did when they were the original Hornets. They had a local TV deal to broadcast a number of games. I think that would be smart to offer your fan base a way to access games for free. That would grow your fan base. Look, the regional sports network idea made some sense on a corporate level. Like, hey, you'll broadcast our games and you'll sell advertising and then you hand us, the team, a bag of cash. Great. The problem is it walled off the team and multiple teams, 13 in total now, free agents. But it walled off teams from fans who didn't have cable. And then they tried to do streaming services that were too expensive, adding on top of other streaming services that people are paying for. It never worked. It never worked. It just alienated fans. Young fans that never even, there were young fans that never even had cable. Because cable is not a thing anymore. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what the Hornets decide to do, what the NBA decides to do. Will they step in and help some of these teams that might not have the resources? Because there are some teams like Utah and Phoenix who have huge pocketed owners who could say we're going to establish our own network. We've seen other teams do this, establish other networks in baseball, because Main Street Sports Group went out of business in baseball before they went out of business in basketball. But you've seen some teams that have taken over their own business in terms of streaming their own games complain, or not complain, but say, hey, this is kind of a hard business to do on our own. And there have been some growing pains in doing that. Are the Hornets deep-pocketed enough, the ownership group, to take losses early? I mean, this franchise has a history with starting networks. Bob Johnson, when he got the Bobcats, started CSET. Nobody knew how to get CSET. Nobody knew what channel it was on. They didn't know where to watch the Bobcats games. It was a disaster. So, there's a way to do this wrong. There's a way to super do this wrong. And there's a way to do this right. And to me, the way to do it right is to establish partnerships with local broadcast networks who and hopefully this doesn't affect EC or Dell or anyone that was part of FanDuel Sports Network in terms of the broadcast, because they do a great job. The camera people, all the people that you never see or never hear about, they did a great job putting the games on. This wasn't their fault. The model was broken. So we'll talk about this more as we get more details about what the future of Hornets broadcast look like. But did want to get to some sicko celebrations. We'll hit refresh here on Subtext. Join subtext.com/Locked On Hornets. We've got a few here. This one is from Mitch of the 19th Sneed Squadron. I've got a need for Sneed, who says, it's April and I'm going to bed with the Hornets 5 games over 500 and the 8th seed. Gonna sleep good tonight. Rest well, you sicko. the Hornets have gotten things handled. And look, a lot has been made about the tough schedule that they've got coming up. The Pacers are playing a lot better. They've been knocking off a few of these play-in to be teams, so you got to take them seriously. Pascal Siakam is playing super well right now, so that's an underrated tough matchup. And you've still got the Knicks, you've got the Pistons, you've got the Celtics. How many of those teams will be playing for something? Like the Celtics seem to almost have the 2 seed locked up. The Knicks, and I think the Knicks and the Cavs, I don't know how many games they're separated by, but I think by the time you get to that Knicks game, that's probably going to be settled. So, and I just called for Kon to get some rest in the final game against Detroit, but they might not have that luxury. They might be fighting, depending on if Orlando continues their spiral and fires their coach. Like, I don't, maybe they get locked into the 10 seed, but things are too tight right now. Let me just pull up the NBA standings to go over it. But things are super tight. Miami is at 40-37, so they are now a full game back of the Hornets in 10th place. Orlando is now a half game back from the Hornets, so the Hornets sit in sole possession of 8th with the win. And then Toronto and Philadelphia, both a game and a half ahead of the Hornets for 6 and 7. So still a shot in the dark. I mean, with 6 games left, a 1.5 game lead. I mean, it's certainly not impossible. Toronto does have a pretty easy schedule, but they've lost 2 in a row. Toronto's slipping all of a sudden. But even if they don't make the 6th seed, I mean, the teams around them right now are kind of falling apart, except for Philadelphia. Philadelphia is looking good right now, but everybody else is falling apart. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Let's get to some more celebrations. This one from Yo-Yo, who said the Suns came out all mouthy and got a sound whooping. Doug, where do you think Williams lands next year? You're a free agent, right? Where do you think Williams lands next year? Yeah, I don't know if he's talking about Grant Williams or Mark Williams. Grant Williams, I don't think is a free agent. I think he's got 1 more year left. Maybe he was talking about Mark Williams because of so Grant Williams is contracted through next year at $14 million. Mark Williams might be a free agent. I have no idea. It's been another weird season for him. Nobody's mentioning him as really a catalyst for that Suns team, so I have no idea, and I've talked enough about Mark Williams in this episode. Let's get to some more here. This is from Roger of the 23rd Trey Man Division, who says, Doug, the guys gave those Suns the 1-2 punch in the mouth, left them reeling in the fourth quarter. Shout out to Sion and Kalkbrenner for being defensive juggernauts. Jalen Green and Devin Schnooker didn't get to spark up anything but conversations about those Hornets. Ran them out of the building tonight. That's right, Roger. I mean, the Hornets did. They made the home crowd proud. That's all you want. That's all you want is for them to figure it out in the middle of the game to get grown up. I've said the biggest thing that the Hornets had to overcome was this idea that in my head, at least, in my observation, that they were a front-runner team. They had to come out in a rhythm offensively in order to spark their defense. It's got to be the other way around. The defense has to spark the offense. It's the way you win in the playoffs. And I thought they were able to figure it out in this game. This one from Casual Hindu of the first Lance Stevenson division. Massive W hat. Love to see a statement win. This team is amazing. Hot take. Kalkbrenner is going to be better than Mark if you account for availability. Yeah, well, account for availability and account for doing the little things. Look, if Mark is a backup center now and Kalkbrenner is a backup center now, you want your backup center to do dirty work. Occasionally, great. Put up 20 points occasionally. But I want him blocking 4 shots. It was fantastic. Let's see. We are going to go with this next celebration is going to be J. Brown Bus City, spending Easter weekend in Mount Juliet. Where's the watch party for the Hornets? Pacers tomorrow night. Mount Juliet, yeah, pretty close to where I am now, Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know. We've talked. I've talked with a few fans here in Tennessee about setting up a little Tennessee. Look, if the Hornets win a playoff series, I'll start the Tennessee branch. It's just tough to start any out-of-state branch of, the Crown Club or whatever we want to call it. That's what the sort of the official fan travel group is called. But if we want to start any kind of out-of-state branch anywhere, the Hornets have to win a playoff series. That's just, to me, that's like, otherwise, I think it's gonna have to stay still pretty local until then and grow out of that. This last one here from Schumann of the 22nd Mullins Regiment, back to winning at home. Feels great. Has there ever been a Hornets rookie that developed as much, a Hornets rookie class that developed as much as this year's class? Maybe LaMelo. Man, I feel like, LaMelo started off the bench, but I just think like LaMelo came in, he's developed over the course of these years, but I just feel like his rookie season, I don't know. I just feel like he came in but now, he developed in the sense that like he started putting bigger numbers when he was a starter, but I don't, just getting a sense that like he was a fully different player from game 1 to game 82 in the same way that I feel that way about the improvements that Kon has made, the improvements that Kalkbrenner and Sion James have made. But yeah, man, development, maturity, the amount of things they can do and look like veterans at so many points and never be afraid of the moment and never like, they make mistakes, but they don't chain mistakes together. They don't make a mistake and then make things worse. That was a little bit of the Nick Smith Jr. issue. That was a little bit of the Malik Monk issue. That was a little bit of the Mark Williams issue. You never have a problem, unlike some of those guys, you never have a problem with these guys like showing up ready to play a game. When has Kon, Ryan Kalkbrenner, or Sion James ever showed up and you're like, that guy was not ready. That guy was not ready to play this game? You would never say that about any of those guys. Kalkbrenner has a foot speed issue. Kon gets blown by at times. Sion, bad turnovers. Like there are issues with these guys that they'll have to continue to develop if they want to continue to be in this lineup. No doubt about it. But they're always ready to play and they're never afraid of the moment and they set a tone. That was the big story in this game. Kalkbrenner, Sion James, setting a tone. You have one of the best starting lineups in the league. Sometimes they don't come out with the right attitude defensively. Sion and Kalkbrenner picked up the slack, so did Coby White. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Hornets. We are so close to the end of the season and postseason basketball. I can't wait to cover it all. Walker's going to be back on the mic this weekend. I think he's going to do a recap after the Pacers game. So you just have to hold on for a little while. He wants to talk about that Pacers game. It's his secret favorite team. So he wants to talk about that game. So stay tuned, and I will be back next week to talk more about where the Hornets are in the standings, how close they are to that juicy 6th seed. It's still a possibility, folks. Until then, go Hornets, go America. Let's swarm Charlotte.